But I had no wedding experience whatsoever. And she found my ad and she was like, hey, would you like to do my wedding? And I was like, oh girl, I was honest with her. I was like,
It's
I've
scary.
done portrait sessions, I've done families, but I've
Yeah.
never done a wedding. And she's like, oh, that's fine. We trust you. We trust your eye. And I'm like, ooh, okay. So that's pretty much how it all came about.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Katie Maria podcast show. Today we have a special guest by the name of Debbie. She is the owner of Basualdo Photography. I so appreciate her and all her talent. She is amazing. Please make sure you go down into the notes and look at her Instagram. Just the tones of her editing style is what really catches my eye. And she's such a sweet and humble soul. She came on and we talked all about booking your first wedding without experience. How do you do that? Gaining clients and customer service and how important that is in our digital media and photography world. So I hope you guys enjoy. Here's episode 12 with Debbie.
Debbie,
Yes.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm super good. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you.
So I've been following you for quite some time, and I'm like, I need to start reaching out to photographers to be on because that's really what my goal is to start helping photographers or anybody in digital media and just succeed in this career. And what better way than to feed off of other people and what they've already done, right?
Yeah. That's so cool.
So, if I could have you please introduce yourself, your name, your business, and a fun fact about yourself.
Well, my name is Debra Basualdo. Everybody calls me Debbie.
Mhm.
I have been doing photography. I have a photography business. I've had it for about 4 years now.
Oh, how cool.
And fun fact about me, I like to say I'm a proud Latina born in Argentina.
Whoop, whoop. I did not know
Yeah.
that. How cool. So you were born in Argentina?
Yeah, I was
And
born in
then how
Argentina.
old were you when you came to the US?
I was I think I was like 7 or 8, around there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's awesome. And both of your parents are from Argentina?
Yeah, actually, my whole family is from Argentina, and then we came here as a family together.
How cool. Man, I
Yeah.
love that. I would have never known if I wouldn't have asked for a fun fact. I don't remember how I found you on Instagram. I really don't. I think it, like,
Either.
people just come up on your recommended page and then you just like, oh, they're cool. And then you start following.
Yeah,
I,
what I remember is I remember that I came across your page, but I don't remember if you followed me or if I followed you. And I remember going through your page, like, you know how you're stalking someone,
of
and
course, yes.
I noticed that you had a personal page, so I was like, oh, she seems cool. So I started following your personal page. That's all I remember, honestly.
Yeah. And then same thing. Do you have a personal? I don't think I'm following you on a personal page.
No, I don't have a personal. My
Oh,
personal is pretty much my photography page.
look at you keeping it private. I like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
I know. So I remember seeing your work. I love your edit style, by the way. Like I'm
Thank
always looking
you.
at how other people edit and like their color schemes and like just their whole vibe. And I love yours. So kudos to you. Like you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
You are in what city again?
I'm from Tulare here in California.
Wait, I thought you were from Porterville. No way.
Yeah, no, I'm in Tulare.
Oh, wow. How cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you service all of the Central Valley, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's start like way, way back because I just discovered today you're 24, you're a baby. And you said you've been doing this for 4 years. So you started really young. You were about 20 years old when you started.
Yeah, I
What led
was.
you to pick up a camera? And then what led you to initially be like, oh, I like this. Let's start getting people to pay me for it. How did that start?
Honestly, Katie, being like hands down, honestly, the
Yeah.
thought of being a photographer wasn't even a thing for me. Like, I sort of grew up loving the idea of being able to like capture a moment in time. Like my mom used to what were they called? Oh, she used to buy the disposable cameras
Oh
all
my
the
gosh.
time.
Yes.
And I used to get so excited when we would go and pick up our developed pictures. But
Yes.
really, it all started, like everything shifted when I met my friend Margaret. She's a good friend of mine, and we worked together at a preschool.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a teacher's assistant, and I found out that she was a photographer.
Oh,
And
cool.
I just saw that, like I went through, just like I kind of stalked you, I stalked her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
And I went through her page, and I saw like how crazy talented she is. And I sort of, from there, I just sort of started going through like other photographers, and I came up, or I came across other videographers, and it's just like I fell into this rabbit hole of photography
Mm-hmm.
world.
Yep. Once
And
you get
it
in it,
was,
it's, yeah.
yeah, I was just became so passionate about it. Like I was like, this is so cool. This is I loved it. And that's whenever I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna buy a camera. And it just
Mm-hmm.
started from there. Yeah.
So were you doing it as like a hobby first and like learning, and then
Um
you eventually started getting clients, or how did that work?
yeah, I started, well, when I bought my camera, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this as a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, I recognized that it was like a God-given talent, like not to put myself on top of anything, or,
Yeah.
but I realized that it was, definitely something that I needed to allow God to move through me. And honestly, through this experience, like I've learned so much about myself, and what I'm capable of too. So last year was my official year that I started like calling myself, all right, I'm a photographer. This is a real
Yes.
business. So really, last year, January of last year, was when it all came down.
How cool. What was the first camera you bought? Or are you still shooting with that one?
Oh, what was my first camera? It was the Canon 80D.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
And
my
what do you
first
shoot with
camera.
right now?
I'm using the 5D Mark IV.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah.
What's your favorite lens? I know I didn't add this on our combo, but I'm just so curious. What's your favorite lens? Or what's like your
My
go-to?
favorite lens, it's between the 24 to 70 and
Uh-huh.
the 50 millimeter. I
Oh
just
my,
love those two lenses. But I think
yep.
if I had to choose one, it'd probably be the 50. I just
Yeah.
love it so much.
Yep, I agree. That's like for any photographers listening to the podcast right now. 50 is like such a good starter lens because it gives you such a great look. And if you get a 1.4, so like a 4 f-stop, those are so inexpensive. I want to say like 150. Like, would you agree? 150,
Yeah,
150 bucks.
yeah. And sometimes you can even find it, like if you want to really go the cheaper route, you can find a used one for even cheaper, and it's like,
Yes.
boom, you have it.
Yes. So that is one of them that I highly recommend. Um, Good choices. I also love the 24 to 70. I actually just got that one, and that one's been my go-to for a long time. I was a 24 to 105 only
Ooh,
because I didn't like switching out lenses all the time, and I liked being able to zoom in, zoom out, etc. But now the 24 to 70, I've been really enjoying. That's what I've been shooting with
yeah.
lately. Let's talk about the beginning again. I was thinking back on my experience, like what is something that we could share to other photographers that want to start shooting? And then you eventually want to get like big events, right? You want to get a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get into the scenario of, hey, I want to book you for a wedding. Do you have any experience you could show me? You're like, oh shit, I don't have anything. What do I show you? So I know what it was like for me, but I really, really want to know what it's like for you. How did you get clients to trust you to shoot weddings, which are, you shoot beautifully, by the way,
Oh,
without
thank
prior
you.
experience to show?
Oh man, it's funny that this question comes up because I was thinking about it a couple weeks ago. And Katie, I was lucky to book my first wedding.
Yes.
I booked it with a stranger. Like
Oh,
I can't
wow.
believe she
Okay.
trusted me.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, she's not a stranger anymore, but when honestly I knew that it was God behind all this, because
I
to
believe
this
it.
day I can't believe this lovely couple just booked my inexperienced girl. Like I had no experience. I remember I had placed an ad on Facebook, and
Mm-hmm.
of like my portrait sessions,
Yeah.
quote unquote portrait sessions.
Right?
But I had no wedding experience whatsoever. And she found my ad and she was like, hey, would you like to do my wedding? And I was like, oh girl, I was honest with her. I was like, I've
It's scary.
done portrait sessions, I've done families, but I've never
Yeah.
done a wedding. And she's like, oh, that's fine. You know, we trust you. We trust your eye. And I'm like, ooh, okay. So that's pretty much how it all came about.
So you did have experience like portrait wise, but we didn't have like an event experience, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
None.
So I think that's a good tip. Like, even if you don't have wedding experience, at least have shooting experience, meaning like families and lifestyle sessions, and get some practice there first.
Yeah,
Like, don't
definitely.
just jump straight into the wedding industry. Like,
Yeah,
that's a lot. And the biggest
yeah,
reason why it's so scary to me is because a portrait session, if something happens to your files, I can easily call you and be like, hey, this got corrupted. Hey, this didn't turn out okay. You can't recreate a wedding.
exactly.
Like, that is so scary to be losing files. So what I did for my first wedding is, so same thing. I had been shooting tons of family and friends for free in the beginning. Did you do the same?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was like, hey, at first it was like, hey, let me shoot you, let me shoot, let me shoot. I really want to do this. And then once people started realizing that I did it, it was like, hey, can you shoot me? And of course I would do it for free. And then once you're like, I'm actually pretty good, like I need to start charging. So then of course, it evaluated into what is a business. But my first wedding for photography, my first wedding photography was a backyard wedding. It was only 4 hours. It was someone that recommended me. My friend who's a photographer wasn't available that day and said like, hey, I have this friend, reach out to her. So it was a like 4 hour little shindig. She saw my stuff, was like, yeah, come on in. So I did. But I remember just thinking like, I need to go above and beyond, right? Like I need to over serve in order to build a profile because this is like my first thing. So I took them to a park, and I remember them telling me like, no, we don't want to like leave the party and then come back. I'm like, please, like you do not know how important it is for you to have portraits like by yourself, like styled.
Mm-hmm.
So I did. I took them, I styled them, I took pictures, and they loved it. Maybe took 30 minutes, and then we went back to the party. And yeah, and that was what I had for my portfolio for weddings. And then I started slowly building it up. And then for video, I remember a couple reaching out to me through Instagram. And they were like, oh, this person knows you. And I always try to connect who they know me through, but I didn't know who this person was. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't know who that is, but thank you for having them refer you to me. And we had a conversation, and they're like, yeah, we really want video. Like, what do you do? And in this case, I do have, video experience. I'm a video teacher. I teach it. And I was a video teacher at the time when they contacted me, and they let me know, like, oh, do you have any experience? And I remember contemplating this message that I had to text out to them. I did not know what to write. Like, I took days. It took days for me to respond. And finally, I was just honest. I'm like, you know what? I was trying to build my portfolio, but, I may not have wedding footage to show you, but I have X, Y, and Z. This is what I do. I have video footage from this. So anyways, they trusted me and they hired me. And that was, oh my gosh, such an experience. And then from there on out, I started building my portfolio. But kudos to those couples that take chances on photographers and videographers. We
Yes.
appreciate you.
Bless their hearts.
Bless their hearts. And then
Yeah.
honestly, Debbie, I don't think they would have hired you if your charisma and loyalty and honesty wasn't as so. Because if you come out as a prick plus you don't have experience, they're going to be like, yeah, no, we're not going to hire you.
Oh,
So how important do you think your character is, like for your brand?
so important. I honestly, I always, every time like I get asked, like, you know what, how should I portray myself? It's like, be yourself,
Right.
be who you are, but don't overdo it. Don't say, oh, I can do all these things. And honestly, at the end of the day, you can only do certain stuff. You can only
Mm-hmm.
deliver certain things. Be honest. Be
Yeah.
honest on the things that you have, on the things that you can deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, anyone that is talking to you, anyone that is looking into booking a wedding or whatever, they're gonna see, oh, she's being honest, or
Mm-hmm.
he's being honest. And I'd rather have someone honest than
Yep.
someone who tells me I can do this and this, and then in the end it's like, ugh, I didn't get this.
Yep.
So yeah, so important to just be honest, be yourself, and be happy with who you are.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think honesty is the best policy, and I think that with anything, like it doesn't even have to be a business, just life in general. I think it says a lot about your character, and
Mm-hmm.
people are willing to understand, like, okay, she's an honorable, trustable person. Is that even a word?
Yeah.
Trustable?
Trustable. I don't know.
Right now, we talked a little bit before we started recording, but we're all in quarantine at home. I want to talk a little bit about how this has impacted your business at the moment. And do you think that photography will shift? Like, will people eventually want to start hiring photographers again once we're out? Because here's my like little 2 cents on that. I've been living in quarantine, as everybody, but it's been more so like I don't want to spend money. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, like I'd rather just not spend on anything extra that's not necessary, just
Mhm.
in case. So I'm thinking maybe there may be a shift afterwards. Same thing, thinking like, oh, we're just getting out of this pandemic. Maybe we should just start saving. There's really no need. What are your thoughts on that? First of all, how is your business impacted during this time?
Um, well, things definitely have been put on hold on my side, which at first was very frustrating.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, like many other photographers and other vendors, I mean, we all had big plans, like for this wedding season, but it all came to a full stop because of the situation that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
However, I've been a witness, and I believe you've been a witness to this too, Katie, of the community and connection that has sprung up because of this
Oh yeah.
situation.
Yes.
Honestly, I can't predict what's gonna happen. But how did that hashtag? How does it go? Community over competition. I
True.
see that right now. I see how much connection there is between our photography community and honestly in this wedding industry. I've seen how much people have been connecting, how much people have been checking up on each other, saying, hey, how have you been doing? And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, after all this um ends, I guess, I see us coming together and saying, how can we make this happen? How can we bring these people who had to postpone their weddings or had
Mm-hmm.
to postpone their plans? I really see people coming together to deliver, a special thing for these people.
I think
But at the end of the day, we don't know what's gonna happen. Yeah.
I think that yeah, you're right on because there has been such a community connection that I've seen 100%. But also experiencing it on like a parent level, I'm like, oh, I need to protect my family at all costs. So I
Mhm.
could definitely see both sides to it. How many, or did you have any weddings that you had to postpone or that were postponed and you were notified?
Yes. Well, obviously, all of my spring weddings have been postponed. I had three or four that were in March, and I only did one.
Right.
And then the other three that I had in April, all of them were postponed till next year.
Oh, wow.
And I've been talking this week with my brides from May, and they're telling us the same thing, like, hey, we might have to postpone till next year. And Katie,
Crazy.
I've gotten phone calls from some of my brides, and it breaks my heart. One of
Oh
them
my
called
God.
me,
Yeah.
and she was in tears, like she was crying and saying, hey, I'm gonna have to postpone my wedding. And I never thought that I was gonna get to that point, but it broke
Mm-hmm.
my heart because she was telling me, I've been waiting for this all my life, and now to
Oh,
postpone it till a whole next year. She was heartbroken. So right now it's hard, but at the same time, I've been telling them, if you need me, if there's anything I can do, I'm here for you. But
yeah.
yeah, those wedding had to be postponed till next year, sadly.
Oh man, yeah, I had two weddings that have been postponed, and same thing. One of them is a really good close friend, so she was stressed about it, but she's doing it the best that she can. And my other one too, but they postponed until October. So who
Mm.
knows what will happen in October, but oh my goodness, this is something people plan for years.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's deposits, and there's people traveling, there's people that book tickets to come, and
Exactly,
it's like
yeah.
a whole ordeal. I did see this article online the other day about this couple that had their wedding right before like everything shut down, and a huge part of their wedding guests did turn out to have COVID because they were a family that just traveled a lot.
Oh
And
man.
yeah, have you seen the front porch sessions going around?
Yeah, I think those are so cool.
I think so too. I had them done. I had Kelly Avila Photography from here in Visalia. She came out and super safe. Like, she didn't even approach our porch. She sent me a text when she was parking. We walked outside. It took maybe 5 minutes, if that. Came back in, and that was it. Like, it was super quick. I think that is a really cool idea for photographers. I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
there's like some like positives, and there are some people like saying that's a negative, but it was so neat to receive them as well. Like, I love them. I love them so much. Is that something that you've thought about doing?
Honestly, yes. I've had a couple of families reach out to me and say, "Hey, we just moved." I had a family asking too. We just moved into our house.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be willing to do some portrait sessions?" And I was like, "Yes, I'd love
Mm-hmm.
to." It does make me nervous just because I do have older parents, but hey,
Right.
we're maintaining our distance, and
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited to take this new thing because I've never done it. A lot of photographers haven't done this, so I'm
Yeah.
excited to see. I'm excited to experience this.
I'm
Yeah.
actually excited for that to even continue. Like, I love the idea of having a photograph of you in front of your home, and like maybe
Mhm.
even doing that every year as a tradition, and seeing as the kids grow older and taller. Like, I don't know. I loved it. Super
Yeah,
cute.
yeah, I love that idea too. Like, we even thought about it for our own home because we
Yeah.
bought a home last year, and we've been renovating it, we've been painting it, and it's like that's such a good idea to take
Mm-hmm.
pictures on the yearly,
Mm-hmm.
and to see how everything turns out. I love that. I love that idea.
Okay, so tell me, I know that a lot of photographers either do this full time or they don't, because photography is kind of really cool that allows you to do photography at the same time as like going to school or working part time or whatever it may be. Are you doing this full time at the moment? Or if not, what are other roles that you're currently juggling right now?
Well, I don't know if you could consider it. I consider it that I am a full-time photographer
Yeah.
ever since last year, but I also am working as a part-time bilingual assistant at an elementary school, and I'm also one of the Sunday school teachers at our church.
Oh my
So
goodness.
yeah,
So you juggle a
I
lot too.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm. How do you
Mhm.
find balance in all of that?
Honestly, Katie, I've stopped trying to find balance because the
Yeah.
more I try to find balance in things, the more I got myself out of balance. Like, I
Right.
remember when I first started doing all of this and I got really frustrated. I got to the point where I was a little bit overwhelmed. I'm like, oh, I don't have time to even see my family. I don't have
Yep.
time to just for myself. And I just got to the point where I said, okay, I have to stop trying to find this balance. I have to stop trying to be super organized in every single detail, and I have to accept that it's okay to say no. It's
Yep.
okay to say, hey, I can't do this, or hey,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna have time to do this.
Yeah.
I learned, Katie, to have grace with myself, to be patient with myself,
Hmm.
because when I didn't, I would get overwhelmed, and when I didn't too, I would get to the point where I would cry at night and I would be like, no, this is too much.
Hmm.
But yeah, I had to learn to say no. I had to learn to say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do it, or
Yeah.
and just leave it at that, you know?
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
think I think for those that are considering becoming a photographer or just dabbling in digital media, is once you start growing your client list, people will start, contacting you, and it'll become an easier flow instead of you having to go out and find clients.
Mm-hmm.
And once this flow is coming in, it's so easy to say yes to everybody because you want to do it. You want to book all the families, you want to do all those shoots. And I did get also to a point where I just couldn't. Me saying yes to them meant saying no to my family, meant saying no to an appointment or a lunch date with a friend that I haven't seen in so long, or even my own self care, right? Like just
Mm-hmm.
having to
Exactly.
slow down. So, as much as I wanted to please every customer and say yes, it's not possible. And I think once you realize that, then balance just comes naturally. It's more like you said, there's acceptance with what's coming in, what's going. I think it took a while for me to find that, but now I'm in a happy place. I know when to juggle things and when to not put things on my calendar, and it's been nice. So how do you like having control of your schedule, because you can place them whenever you'd like? So how do you like that?
Well, because I do work also, so I
Okay.
try to do all of my anything that has to do with my business, with photography, with my job, with my elementary school job. I try to keep all that during the week, and I know that on wedding days, of course, those are the weekends.
Right.
But all my work, everything, I just try to keep it in the weekdays at a certain time, and then when that time is gone, like from 3 to I don't know what time, if that once I'm done with that, it's set aside. Like I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm home. I set it aside, because if I keep on going, if I don't set a time, I'm just gonna stress myself out.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
it
that's pretty
and it's
much
easy
how I
to
do it.
just it's easy just to work all day, right? Like it's easy just to be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh no, I don't have to go and exercise, or I don't have to go and cook dinner. I'll just order in. Like it's so easy just to keep editing, keep sorting, keep working instead of taking time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's times where I would stay up till like 2, 3 a.m. editing, and I'm like, I can't do this every day. I need to have a
Mm-hmm.
better
Yeah.
work-life balance. But I do want to congratulate you because I saw you've been doing some videos for your youth group. How
Oh
has
my
that been
goodness.
going?
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, first of all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's actually for our kids ministry. And
Oh,
oh,
cool. Yeah.
Katie, it's been definitely a huge learning process for me,
Okay.
because I am no expert in videography. But yeah, the main thing, honestly, that got me started was just, hey, these kiddos need us. These kiddos
Mhm.
are in need for some Sunday school attention. So yeah,
Mhm.
it just got me started from there.
Good. And how are you liking it? Is it hard recording yourself?
It is.
Yeah.
I'm not the type of person that likes to be in front of the camera. I
Yeah.
love being behind the camera. I love directing
Yeah.
people, telling them what to do, how to pose them. But
Yeah.
when it comes to me and I see myself and I hear myself, it's like, oh, cringe.
Yeah. It's
But
definitely something that you learn to accept. I
mhm.
think a tip that I can give to you is to make it easier is just understanding that video is a tool, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Mhm.
just clearly a tool. You're providing this content for the kids to see. And once you see things as that, it's no longer like, oh, is my hair okay? Oh my God, I sounded so stupid. Like who gives a shit? Just be the best that you can and know that on the other end, if there's even that one person that gains value out of it, then kudos to you. Like that's 100% the reason why you're doing it. And it's not
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much about like, oh my God, I looked horrible, or you know what I mean? Like all those little minor details, just fade them away. Just keep
Yeah.
going. I see what you're doing, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you. And you know what? I understand too that for the parents,
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy for the parents too. So like what led me to do this too is I think about the parents and I think about, hey, they're having to juggle between work and
Oh my
school and
gosh.
home all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So creating these videos, I want to believe that it's giving these families, you know, an opportunity to come together, to bond together, and to do something fun, you know, to get them
Yeah.
out of that routine of, hey, this is work, hey, this is I'm tired. Just get them together to do
Yeah.
something. So that's mainly what drives me to step out of my comfort zone. But yeah, it's a process.
I completely agree. And I love how you're saying that this is to help others. And I think that's one of the questions I put in was it feels so good to be able to use our knowledge in digital media to help others. And even though we're doing photos, you may not think like, oh, it's helping others, but the joy that it feels to open up your album and see your family captured, like that is so precious. And then the also being able, like what you're doing, Debbie, I mean 100%, I love it, is being able to provide videos to these families. And this is just you using your knowledge of digital media to be able to produce content for the kids, and then that in turn is helping their family. So digital media is a beautiful world. There's so much you can do with it to reach other individuals, because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. That's what our role
Yeah.
is as a content creator. So keep killing it.
Thank you.
So, alongside with that, I was thinking about photographers and price points that we had. Maybe like when we
Yeah.
started, maybe so we both agree when we first started, it was $0 and 0 cents.
Yes.
It was our time and efforts. So, what tips do you have for photographers that are starting and then finally are like, okay, I want to get paid, but like, how much am I worth?
Mm, yeah, that's such a good question, Katie. Honestly, finding a good price point can be a little bit stressful for,
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably say most of us. And I say us because in a business, you have to be able to pay the expenses that
Right.
come with having a business. And on top of that, you know, you got to be able to pay your bills and all that fun stuff, you know?
And have it
But
still be worth your time and effort.
yeah, I want the couple, I want someone who's booking me to be able to feel confident when they
Yeah.
book me, you know, without any doubt, oh, she's too expensive or she's too cheap. I
Yes,
want them to be confident in my work as well, which it kind of puts the responsibility, no, not kind of, it
it
really
does.
puts the responsibility on me to really do my job right and be confident in doing so. So at the same time, I personally want to feel confident with the price that I'm offering, knowing the expenses will be covered. So
Right.
my big tip would probably be put a list together of expenses, obviously reasonable expenses, like
Yes.
you know, you're not going to put your $200 leather jeans you want to get for Christmas.
Yes. Yeah.
um, you know, just go from there, make a list. And I think of it this way: if you have a lot of reasonable expenses, then your price should be a little bit reasonably higher. But if you don't have a lot of expenses and especially reasonable gear, then your price should be a little bit lower. Like going back to the, you know, the quality of your work, you
Right.
can't expect to charge $3,500 when you have little to no experience. Of course,
Right.
you want to build up
Yes.
one day
Mm-hmm.
to be able to hopefully charge them an amount, but it all takes time. It takes patience and obviously practice. You got to practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do also want to give the tip that every year you should be reevaluating your price point,
Yeah.
because you're adding to your resume, you're adding experience, you're adding knowledge. And I saw this quote, it was like an Instagram quote, and it said something along the lines like, you're not paying me for my time, you're paying me for my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot agree anymore with that, because I think I love it. It's 100%. So every year, a tip that I'm going to give you is, or photographers listening, is every year reevaluate your work. So if you're continuing this every year, just like Debbie said, you're gaining experience, so you can't just be charging millions of dollars in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yeah.
you're you, even in the beginning, you may be losing some money, to be honest. You
Yeah.
can have more expenses, but the value you get in return is building your portfolio. So it's like a give and take. And then
Mm-hmm.
after you reevaluate every year, your expenses may grow. Maybe you're getting bigger. Now you're hiring assistants. Maybe now you're hiring second shooters. So your price point has to go up. There's no way that you can meet the demand on your own. And then again is really valuing yourself, and it's never doubting it. So like if I charge whatever X amount per session, it's never like, oh, is it too much? Like, no, like be confident with that number and realize, yes, this is how much I'm worth. I have, enough experience. So if anybody ever wants to book you, there's no doubt that you can follow through for the amount that you are
Mm-hmm.
priced at. So I started really low in the beginning. Holy Jesus. And then my first year, I did my taxes and I'm like, holy moly, I'm losing money here. So then I had to go
Yeah.
up, and then, so every year it's just been a reevaluation that you guys should all definitely look at.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
great tips, Debbie. I appreciate that. And you
Thank
also
you.
mentioned about you want your couples or whoever it is that books with you to feel confident with you. And I think people don't realize how much photography is customer service. Like it's
Mhm.
100%, a million percent customer service. What we do with our clients is that's it. Like um, we're everything. We're HR. We're
We're
our
the whole
billing
shebang.
clerks. We are, I don't know what's another word, like nannies. Like I take care of babies while I'm shooting at couples. Like I'll hold them so then they could get a shot
Yes.
by themselves. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. I want to ask, and I'm curious, what are some things you would suggest to photographers do with their clients to make sure they're satisfied? And ultimately, we want our customers to be returning customers. I have customers that come
Mm.
to me every year for their Christmas card. They come every time they have a new special event. And that is ultimately goals, right?
Yes, definitely.
What do you think about customer experience and the time with your clients?
Um, well, one thing simply is obviously getting to know them. Like personally, I
Yeah.
do my absolute best to get to know my couples, to get to know my families. And the first time we meet, I take note of like the little things, like how my couples met, or even in the families how the mom and dad met. And I make it a cool fact, like, oh, how'd you guys meet? Can you want to tell your kids how you guys met? And sometimes the kids
Mhm.
are like, oh, we've heard this story, and that kind of like makes them feel a little bit more comfortable. And this is it's but families, I make sure I understand like the vibe that's going on.
Right.
I only have one shot, and I don't have the opportunity to get to meet them beforehand, so I have like that question. I have personal questions, like what are some song choices that they enjoy listening to, and what are some activities they like to do as a family. And this, and getting to know them, getting to know the little things, it helps me prepare for when I come to see them. And
Mhm.
it makes the session a fun and a memorable time also.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's definitely an experience. You're providing an experience, and alongside with knowing more about the families, you're able to make them feel comfortable because that's what we want. We want a good
Hmm.
image. And can you imagine what it's like to have them be present and they're tense or they're angry or they're mad? That will follow through and appear in each photo. So you really want to have a family session or a lifestyle, whatever it may be. You want them to be present and you want them to be happy, so that shows through in the images, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And don't you agree there's times where we're like we make fool of ourselves and we're like dancing, we're like doing what we can to put them at
Things
ease?
I've said, Katie.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
We do the most. We do
Yeah,
the most.
we do. I remember one time when I did my Yosemite shoot, I can't remember what I said, but I know I said something really dumb. And there was a
Yeah.
huge group of people because it's Yosemite, there's always people there.
Yeah.
And man, I remember I turned tomato red because just the things I say just to make them laugh. Oh my goodness.
Yes. I couldn't agree
Yeah.
more. Have you ever had bad experiences with clients?
Not really. I'm surprised to say that, but
Yeah.
I think the worst experience I've had is I totally forgot to save the pictures whenever I sent them out.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the family called me back and said, "Hey, we didn't receive it." And I was like, "Oh, shoot."
Mhm.
So yeah, that's probably the worst experience I've had. I had to, I was like, "Hey, I'll do another session for you," and they were
Yeah.
totally cool about it because I
Yeah.
was I was new. I was new at what I was doing, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think that was the worst experience I've had.
I've had something similar, and it's only happened that one time, and I've learned from it is I incorrectly formatted a card thinking it was a new card, and I deleted pictures. So I was
Ooh.
doing minis. Okay. So I was doing mini sessions, and then I was putting what I thought was a new card in my camera, and I formatted it, and it was the card I was using with
Oh,
the mini session. And then luckily it was only one mini session that was on there. And yeah, so I lost their work, and I did refund them, and I did do the session again. But again, it's upsetting. Like, you have to get ready again. You have to, you know, meet again. You have to set time apart again. You have to nap your children and make sure they're happy. So by the time, it's a
yeah.
lot. And I felt so bad. Like, you don't know how bad I felt. And that was towards the beginning of my career. And then after that, I learned my lesson.
Yes,
And
definitely makes me sick to my stomach when I think about
yes.
that one time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think that's like the worst feeling, losing somebody's files or it not working
Mhm.
out. But again, with the customer service, I did everything possible to have them still be content with my work. It was an honest mistake. And so I refunded them and redid it. And even I think my minis included maybe like 10 photos, and I gave him like 25, like anything I could to make the experience better after I effed up.
Yeah.
So okay, Debbie, are you ready for this portion? This is the portion like in the radio talk shows that like the music starts and then we're doing rapid fire.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm giving you 4 scenarios and you need to let me know how you'll deal with it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. First scenario, you have a family session. What
Uh-huh.
are the essentials you carry in your bag?
Ooh, I would only carry my camera, my DSLR, and my zoom lens, my 24 to 70.
Cool. So what about
Mhm.
batteries?
And my batteries, of course, my SD cards.
And your SD cards. What?
Yes.
Okay, good. Scenario. Oh, wait, can I give you a tip really quick on that? On what I
Yeah.
carry is I always take a blanket with me, like a little one that I put in my bag. You never know. Like sometimes I'll just take it out so we could do sitting photos.
Hmm.
And I also take extra waters. Like that's the customer service part of me, just like giving
Yes.
them waters. Like I like to be a little extra. And then I also take paperwork with me. I do hand physical receipts to them and like some instructions with how to find their files after we're done. And that's all I can think about at the top of my head. Oh, and like extra SD cards because I'm always afraid
Yes.
of like not having enough space or I don't know. I just
Yeah,
carry tons.
definitely.
Okay, scenario number 2. You have a fussy baby that isn't too happy during your shoot. What do you do?
Okay, this has happened to me before
Mm-hmm.
more than once, and every time I've stepped away, I've allowed the family to just take in the moment, to allow the baby
Mm-hmm.
to get to know the area around him or her.
Yep.
And let me tell you, it's worked every
Yeah.
single time. I'm like, I'll step away,
Yes.
not gonna bother you.
Yes. Okay, I'm doing like the clapping finger things. Same thing. A fussy baby. If they're crying, there's nothing worse than forcing them to be in a session. So I just like no, like let them do their thing, let them
Mhm.
walk, let them explore, and that most of the time you'll capture some really good candidates, and then
Yeah,
they'll calm down. And then once they're ready, then we start again. It's never about forcing. You're not going to get a good picture when you're forcing them. Another
exactly.
thing is, I don't do this, but I've seen it. I have my friend Rupatella Photography, if you know who she is. She
Mhm.
uses these little things that I just found on Amazon. They're like think of it like a scrunchie, but with animals that you put above your lens, and they like make
Oh,
noise and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's such a good idea.
I
And
need one of
she
those.
won't take it out unless she needs it. But I was thinking it's a good way to be like, oh, look right here, because sometimes their eyes wander.
Yeah, yeah.
So we should look into that. They're on Amazon. I'm gonna look it
Good.
up.
I like that.
Okay, scenario number 3. You forget an SD card when you're at
Mm.
a shoot. What do you do?
I would cry, Katie. But I always carry an extra SD card on my purse, in my
Yeah.
purse.
Oh,
Everywhere I
okay.
go, it doesn't matter if I'm shooting or not. I
Okay.
always carry a blank SD card in my purse just for safety.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so this has happened to me twice. Ugh. Okay. So once it was actually a family friend. I was not charging them, and this was last year, or a year and a half ago. I was not charging them for the shoot, and I showed up, and I'm like, shoot, I don't have an SD card. Luckily, I lived really, really close to where I was shooting, and I was able to just drive out really quick and get it. And I wasn't charging them, so I didn't feel super bad. You know, it was like a
Mm.
favor that I was doing for them. And the second time, same thing. I do a lot of photo work for Blueprint, which is a gym near me. And I took my camera, I was working out, and then I took it out to take a photo, and there was no card in it. And I'm like, what the heck?
Oh.
But it wasn't like a scheduled shoot. I shoot at my
Mm.
own time whenever I want. Like I create my own schedule sort of thing. So it was no big deal. I could just do it again like another day. But yeah, that's the only times. And I learned from it, and it was very stressful. But what I do now is before I leave to a shoot, I have like a mental checklist, and I'm like, okay, check, I have this, check, I have this, check, I have this. And that's really helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, last scenario. A couple is appearing tense in front of the camera. What do you do?
I pretty much would do the same thing with the fuzzy baby. I'll
Okay.
just step away and I'll tell them, you can take a walk, you can sit down here on a bench if there's a bench, and just chat for a little bit. And I always have music playing on my phone.
Okay.
So, I'll step away, and usually that works. And then afterwards, when they come back, I'll have some activities for them to do, and that really makes them feel comfortable, and
Good.
it helps out a lot, honestly, every time.
Okay, I'm going to take that tip because I know when I first started photography, let's say I booked a 45-minute session or an hour session, whatever it may be, I felt like the whole time I had to be shooting, like the whole every minute of the hour. And now I've realized, like, no, I'm not going to be shooting the whole time. Sometimes there's going to be little gaps in between. So that's a good take-in, letting them just kind of take a breather and then coming,
Yeah.
regrouping. I think for me, what I do is I honestly will just verbally tell them, and it's not like in a mean way. I never say like, oh my God, you guys look tense. I will say like, hey guys, I'm just another person. Like, I just think of me as like your best friend. I'm nobody. I'm here. You really want, your love to show through these photos. So just be as relaxed as possible. This will result in better photos for you. And I think that's like almost giving them permission to like kiss and hug, because some people don't like
Yeah.
PDA. So just even verbally saying that kind of like releases permission, like, oh, okay, like we don't have to be weird. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and like telling them too, like, oh, you guys look so cute. And
Oh,
I'm the
yes,
type of
hyping them
person,
up.
yes, I'm the type of person that would be like, yes, girl, you look
Yeah.
so beautiful. And that makes them laugh. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm that person.
I do that too, like hyping them up and just reminding them to be silly. I like the idea of playing music. I've never done that before, so that's a good one. I'm going to take that in to account
Yeah.
next time.
I make a list of music they like. I always ask, hey, what kind of music do
Oh,
you
I
guys
love
like?
that.
And a lot of times, like, I'll bring out the song that they dance to for the first time or whatever, and I'll have them dance or whatever makes them feel
Cute.
comfortable.
What a great idea. I love that. Okay, I'm going to
Yeah,
do that next time. That's going above and beyond, girl. Good for you. Great customer service.
thank you.
All right, Miss Debbie, it was such a pleasure speaking to you. Can you believe like an hour passed by?
Really? Oh my goodness, time flies.
Right. It's time flies when you're having fun. Um,
Right?
I really, really appreciate you and all of the tips that we're giving out, especially to people that are just starting out. That's kind of like my goal, is to reach those people that want to start and they're like, who am I to start, right? Like they don't feel enough value in themselves to get
Hmm.
going. So, I mean, hands down, everything she has shared is gold. Can you please let anybody know that's listening where they can reach out to you? What socials do you have? Spell out your last name, because there's a lot of vowels.
Well, I have an Instagram, and my last name is Basualdo. It's B as in boy, Asuald as in dog, and O.
Okay.
Basualdo.
Okay.
So yeah, I have an Instagram, and then I have Facebook, and it's Basualdo Photography for both.
Cool. Okay.
Mhm,
So please, I'm
mhm.
going to also have that information in the notes below, so you could just click on it and it'll take you over. This episode will be available on all streaming apps, iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. So you'll be able to
Ooh.
see Debbie everywhere. Please make sure you give her a follow. She's a cool chick, and she's just starting out, and I see a lot of great things out coming for you. I really do. I see you having
Thank
huge,
you.
huge
Thank you so
success.
much.
And yeah, thank you so much for being a guest on my show. And that about wraps it up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.